Praise the Lord, children. Today we'll be looking into lesson number 24, God, our shield. So before we proceed, make sure that you go through the scripture portions and also memorize the memory verse. So let's get started with lesson number 24, God, our shield. So what do you mean by shield? Shield is something that protects us, right? So when we say that God is our shield, that means that God is the one who protects us. When the enemy tries to harm us, God is the one who would protect us. So, in this lesson, we'll be learning about a man of God in whose life God was a shield. Okay, so we'll be learning about Job. So, Job was a man of God and he was from the land of Uz. And he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. That is, he had 10 children. He was a wealthy man. The Bible clearly says that he was a wealthy man. In the first chapter of Job itself, we see that he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 oxen and donkeys, and many servants. So he was a wealthy man, and he raised up his family in the fear of God. And many people has different opinion about us, right? But what really matters is what is God's opinion about us. So God had an opinion about Job, and that was that he was blameless and upright, and that he feared God and shunned evil. So as we see, God's opinion about Job is that he was blameless and upright, and he was a man who feared God. He was a God-fearing a child, and he shunned evil. Okay, so this was God's opinion about Job, and he was a wealthy man. He had 10 children, and he raised up his family in the fear of God. Now, in the very first chapter of Job, we see an interesting conversation that happens between God and Satan. Right now, God is saying to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, and a man who fears God and shuns evil." So God is asking Satan to look at Job, and he's so proud in saying that there's no one on earth like Job. He's blameless, he's upright, he's a God-fearing man of God. This is what God is saying. Now, Satan replies, saying that you have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. Satan is saying that you've blessed him. You've blessed him immensely. He has everything in his life. He's a wealthy man. He has 10 children. He has so many camels or whatever, right? You have blessed him, and that is the reason why Job is probably upright or blameless, right? Satan is saying, but now stretch out your hand and strike everything that he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Now, Satan is saying that since Job is having everything in his life going on well, that's the reason that he's a God-fearing man, or probably he's blameless and upright. But he's saying, just try to stretch out your hand and strike everything that he has. Satan is saying, just make him devoid of all these blessings that he has got right now, and he'll definitely curse you. Satan is challenging God that just make Job devoid of all the blessings that he has, and Job will definitely curse you. He won't be the same Job that you are saying that he is right now. So Satan here is challenging God. Now to this, God replies saying, very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man himself do not lay a finger. Here we see the confidence that God has on Job. God very readily accepts the challenge that Satan puts in front of him. God says, Everything that he has, everything that Job has, is in your power, Satan. You can destroy everything, but on the man himself, on Job, do not lay a finger. Do not lay a finger on Job. Don't do anything to Job, but everything else that he has is in your control, and you can test him. So here we see that God has allowed Satan to test Job, right? Now, so since Job, God allowed Satan to test Job, Job faces many sufferings. So the first one of them was that the Sabeans attacked and stole all of Job's oxen and donkeys and killed a portion of his servants. So this was the first suffering that Job had to go through. So all his oxen and donkeys and some of his servants were killed, were attacked. Second thing, fire fell from the sky and burnt up the sheep and more of Job's servants. So this was the second suffering that he had to go through. Third one, the Chaldeans attacked and stole Job's camels, killing even more of his servants. Right? Now, after these three, till these three, nothing had happened to his family, right? Whatever he has lost is all his donkeys or oxen or all the animals and Job's servants, right? But till now, nothing has happened to his family. So after three of these sufferings also, Job didn't curse God as Satan said that he would do. The fourth suffering that Job has to go through here is a mighty wind. A mighty wind swept in from the desert and destroyed the house where all of Job's children were gathered for a feast, killing all of them. Now, this is where Job would probably had become really upset because his own 10 children were all killed by a mighty wind, right? And after this, so after four sufferings, Satan afflicted Job with a painful sores from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. So all his, the animals that he had, the livestock, and all of them were killed. His servants were killed. His children were killed. And he was afflicted with painful sores all over his body from his feet to the top of his head, right? So these were the sufferings that Job had to go through because God allowed Satan to test him. Now, how did Job respond to all of these sufferings, right? That's really important because how you respond to the situations that you are in would really tell how you are, would really tell what kind of a person you are, right? It has to tell a lot about you. So how you respond to a certain situation is really important. Now, Job's response here is different, right? What did Job do? So the first three sufferings that he went through, he was not like very, very upset or something. But when the fourth tragedy happened, when he lost his children, he mourned. He was very upset. He tore his robe and shaved his head and worshipped God. So when you're tearing, so in the olden days when people used to tear off their robe, that showed how much of pain or grief that person was going through, because that person is tearing off his expensive robe that he has, and that's because it's to show how much upset he is. So he tore off his robe, he mourned, he was very upset, but still he worshipped God, and he said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." So here, Job is upset. Definitely he's upset, he's sad, but he's saying that God has given me these children, and God has taken them away. May the name of the Lord be praised. Right? So this is how Job responds to all the sufferings, all the 4 sufferings that he faced till now, right? And all these sufferings, Satan could not make Job to sin. So Satan asked God for a one last chance. Okay? Satan asks God permission to afflict Job physically. So Satan thinks that if I afflict Job physically, probably he might curse God, right? Because all these while he didn't curse God. He didn't sin against God. But Satan thinks that if he afflict Job physically, he might curse God. So that's why he asked God for permission to afflict Job physically. And God grants the permission. So Satan afflicts him with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head, as we saw. But still, he doesn't curse God, right? And he sits in a heap of ashes, and he cursed the day that he was born. But he never cursed God all this while, through all the sufferings that he had, right? Now, this was Job's response to all the sufferings that he had went through. Now, let's look at the response of Job's wife and his friends. Okay? Now, how did Job's wife react? So, since he had to go through five big sufferings, Job's wife is saying, "Are you still maintaining your integrity with God? Because you have got." Job's wife is saying, "You've faced so many things. You've lost your own children. Why are you still maintaining your integrity with God, right? You should curse God and die, because you've lost your wealth, you've lost your children, you've lost your health. I think you should die. You should curse God and die. Don't maintain your integrity with God." So to this, Job replies saying that, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" It's a very interesting reply that Job gives to his wife. That Job's wife probably thinks that God is a person who would just make everything comfortable for you, everything happy for you. So when something wrong or bad happens in her life, she would simply curse God. But Job is not that person. Job is ready to accept good and bad, both from God, because everything that he has is not his. It's what God has given him. So he's saying that, shall we accept only good from God and not trouble? So here we see that Job is also ready to receive trouble from God and not curse him and not lose his integrity with God. Okay, so this was Job's wife's response to his sufferings. Now, how did Job's friends react to this? So Job's friends were Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. They came to pay him a visit and comfort him, hearing about all that happened to Job. They came, they spent time with their friend Job, but still deep inside, they also thought that Job was going through all these difficulties in his life because probably he had sinned, right? He must have sinned at some point in his life, and that's the reason that he has to pay for all that he has done. So Job's friends assumed that he's suffering all this as a result of his sin. So this was Job's friend's response to Job's sufferings. Now, God's restoration. Now, Job had gone through a lot. Still, Job didn't curse God, but his friends, his wife, everyone was, not supporting Job. They all wanted him to curse God. But Job prayed to God to forgive them of their sins. So Job prayed for his friends. And the Bible clearly says that immediately after Job had prayed for his friends, after Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. So Job prayed for his friends for forgiveness, and he forgave his friends. And the Lord had restored whatever he had lost twice. as he had before. So earlier he had 10 children, 7 sons and 3 daughters. God gave him 10 more children, 7 more sons and 3 more beautiful daughters, and the other 7 sons and 3 daughters are in heaven. So total of 20 children Job has now. He had lost 7,000 sheep. God restored him with 14,000 sheep. 3,000 camels restored with 6,000 camels. 500 yoke of oxen with 1,000 yoke of oxen. 500 donkeys with 1,000 donkeys. So God restored Job with twice as much as blessings that he had before, after he prayed for his friends. Okay, so this is how God restored Job. The Satan tried all means to make Job curse, but he didn't do that. But after the test was over, God restored everything back to Job. Now, what do we learn from this chapter? We see that God allows suffering. God is the one who allowed Satan to test Job. So he allowed suffering. Never lose hope in God in the midst of suffering. God is in control amidst the storm. So, whatever is happening in your life, never lose hope in God. God is always there as your shield. And the last thing that we see is after repentance and forgiveness comes blessings. As we saw, after Job had prayed for his friends, God restored everything that Job had double. Right? So if we are faithful to God in our trials and sufferings, then God will surely bless us with a double portion. So God will never forsake us in our trouble, and He will always be a shield for us. So that's what we learned from this chapter. Thank you all for watching. May God bless you all. Thank you.